buy a $2,000 all-in cost for an alarm system, over payments, right? In order to get this $100, $200 gift today, right? So that was kind of realizing, wait, if I just give them something that they want, they'll buy something they need, right?
So the question is this: how do most agents find the secrets to succeed in today's competitive real estate market, especially when the top agents are keeping those secrets to themselves? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. Hi, I'm Aaron Amuchastegui, and welcome to Real Estate Rockstars.
Hey, Real Estate Rockstars, this is Aaron Amuchastegui. I'm super excited to interview Don Wenner. I got to see Don speak live at our Go Abundance event in Colorado just a couple weeks ago. And I reached out to him to see if I could get him on here to share some of that knowledge and stuff with you guys. Don, how's it going?
It is going great. Thank you so much for having me on here today.
Yeah. Where do you live?
St. Augustine, Florida, just south of Jacksonville, Northeast Florida.
How long have you lived out there?
6-7 years now, originally from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's a lot different than Pennsylvania.
It is.
I've been out to St. Augustine. And this year, have you seen just an influx of people heading out to St. Augustine?
Yeah, last year, I don't know this year if the data's out yet, but last year, St. John County, the county I live in, was the fastest growing county in America. So yeah, tremendous growth. Of course, mainly from colder climates. Moving on down here. That trend's been going on for a while, but it's accelerated through COVID for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to get into Don's story about kind of all of his businesses. So much of it started in real estate, as an agent out there doing the hard stuff that we try to teach. And he's been able to grow that and build it into this giant business that is all over the news for these crazy transactions. Before we jump into that, though, I realized right before we hit record, we both are soccer coaches. So tell me about your soccer team, Don.
So I can't claim I'm a great soccer coach. I have two boys who are 8 and 9 years old. And so I coach soccer for them kind of out of pressure from the coaching organization. I never played soccer. I also coach their football and their basketball, which are sports that I actually know something about and have a passion in. But soccer's been a lot of fun. I've done more soccer the last 6 months than my whole life with my kids. And it's been actually a lot of fun. It's been pretty cool.
When we moved out to Texas, my daughter, you never know how important it is, right? We moved out to Texas and I was telling my girls, all right, we got to get you signed up for a soccer team again, because I had coached the same team, the same girls for lots of years. That was one of the saddest parts about moving was what are we going to do about leaving our team behind? Because I started coaching these girls when they were 5 and 6 years old. And they're like, we're only going to play if you're the coach, Dad. Like we couldn't actually play for anybody else. And so that is a special, fun moment. I remember one Saturday when both the teams kind of won or we hit a goal or something. I remember just saying, man, if I could get paid to coach, 8-year-old girls soccer, I would never do anything else in the world because coaching kids is it is
awesome.
Such a challenge, such a benefit. We'll make sure that you get to soccer practice on time. So big picture as we jump into things. So right now, DLP Capital, you're out of St. Augustine, Florida. You guys do investments, you do lending, you do development. You've got a real estate brokerage still. What am I missing? And am I summarizing it right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, DLP Capital, at our core, we're a private, investment management company that focuses on housing. So as you said, so that's a lot of arms to what we do. We call them departments or divisions. So from real estate brokerage, which we've sold 2,100 homes last year. We've been top 10 Wall Street Journal, I think 8 straight years. We still do that. That was our first business, lending, direct acquisitions, equity partnerships, property management, construction management, development, title, loan servicing, number of business, about 15 different arms that make up DLP Capital today, but all revolves around housing.
Yeah. So but you said you started as an agent. When did you become an agent?
October 2006, which was at least in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. That month was the peak of the real estate market. So it was a great time to get my license and get started. I was still in college at the time, but that's when I got started, and it kind of took off real fast from there.
Yeah, I remember those times, 2005, 2006, peak of the market. I was on the West Coast at that time. I was I think '05 is probably when I graduated in construction management and started running a home builder in Southern California. I had done a couple of years before that, but yeah, that was around the peak. And for my experience, I was out there, and when it first started, it was like these unfair expectations of what life was going to be, because we were getting paid a lot of money to build houses, but we were also like golfing, and it was so easy. And then quickly within a couple of years, I had this crazy awakening that it's not going to be all that easy. So you got licensed in the peak. Was it hard to get your first deal?
Yeah, it was an interesting time. So for me, I didn't really experience a lot of that. October 2006 was the peak. So like literally market started slowing down, right? Like, homes weren't selling fast. People went from thinking it was a super hot market to all of a sudden realizing, wait a second, like, more than half the homes that hit in the market aren't selling. But, my quick story. So I was in college, going to Drexel University, thought I was going to be a financial advisor. That's what I thought I was going to do from 8th grade on, because they made more money than doctors, lawyers, accountants. And I grew up, with very limited means. So I thought, man, that's what I'm going to do. I'm entrepreneurial. I'm great at math. That's what I'm going to do. And I took a job, knocking on doors, selling alarm systems in college, sort of by mistake. And that gentleman who I worked for selling alarm systems, I became the top sales rep in the country for ADT Security. And the guy who owned that dealership, he was a Keller Williams real estate agent. And so it's 2006, and I'm coming over to his house on a Friday afternoon. He's cutting me my check for $5,000 for my 2 weeks commissions, or $7,000. I was making on average $7,000 every 2 weeks as 19 years old selling alarm systems. So it was pretty good. But I started seeing these $17,000, these $22,000 commission checks that he had from his real estate sales as a Keller Williams agent in the peak of the market, right? And I'm like, what's that all about? And he said, well, if you can sell alarm systems knocking on doors, you can sell real estate. You should get your real estate license. So I literally didn't sleep. And I'm only slightly exaggerating, for 2 or 3 weeks, took my classes online, took my exam. And then the next day I flew out to a Craig Proctor conference, and I implemented the guaranteed sale program, your home sold guaranteed or I'll buy it. So I started blasting that on Craigslist when Craigslist was a brand new thing. We were doing the newspaper ads, the bandit ads when that was still a thing. Digital marketing just was starting really. And then we started doing radio right out of the gates. So I started, kind of pushing this guarantee really heavily. But still, to your point, I got my license in October. My first sale took me to May. But that month I had 5, the next month I had 15. And, from my first sale for the next 8 months of that year, I closed about 80 sales. Made $250,000 my first year, and was off and running.
I think what's also something that's really impressive in there is how well you were doing selling alarm systems. I mean, that goes to maybe what life was like in 2005 and 2006. Like, economy's booming, everybody's making lots of money. Everybody that owns a house felt like they were making money every day just by owning their house before the peak happened. But it didn't feel that way, at least when alarm sale was still a tough business. So my math was 1 in every 51 doors I sold an alarm system to. 1 in every 51 doors that opened their door, I sold an alarm system to, right? So I just knocked on a lot of doors. I don't think I was that particularly good. I did come up with some good strategies. So like example, nobody wants an alarm system, right? Like everybody knows they need it or thinks they should have it, but nobody wants to pay for it, right? So I started walking around with an iPod, back when iPods were a thing, in one hand, and a Nintendo Wii in the other hand. And I'd walk to people's doors and I'd say, hey, I'm part of ADT special promotions, and we have these last 2 giveaways here. And for somebody who buys an alarm system today. So when I started doing that, people would buy a $2,000 all-in cost for an alarm system, over payments, right? In order to get this $100, $200 gift today, right? So that was kind of realizing, wait, if I just give them something that they want, they'll buy something they need, right? And so did things like that, but wasn't particularly good, but mastered the door-to-door, where it was, you knock on the door and you say, hey, I want to ADT Security, we're having these special promotions. Let me come in and tell you about it. And you put your head down, you don't even let them talk, and you stomp your feet and walk in, right? You don't even let them give you a chance to say no, right? You learn the things to get in the door but it was knocking a lot of doors. Still, people didn't really want an alarm system, and even in 2006, 2005, people didn't really like people knocking on their door. But it was a fun job for sure. Real Estate Rockstars, this is Aaron Amuchastegui for a quick commercial break. So during 2020 and 2021, the real estate market completely changed. There's so much competition in the market, so many people trying to buy and sell houses, but there's hardly any supply, hardly any product, hardly anyone willing to list their homes. It's time for every agent out there to become a hybrid agent investor, to be able to reach out directly to homeowners to try to get them to sell or list their house. We've got a new website. Go to leadpropeller.com and you can set up your own investor buyer website in just minutes. You'll set up your own URL, set up phone numbers, help go through to leads, help reach out to people that aren't listing their property currently, and have them fill out a form that says, hey, I want to sell my house. And then as an agent, you can go through and make them a hybrid offer. You can tell them, hey, I think your house would sell for $220,000 on MLS, but I can either write you a $180,000 cash offer right now, or I can help you fix it up and you'll list it for $220,000 on MLS. These are buyers that are looking for quick cash offers. Tens of thousands are submitting these forms every single day, and they're skipping the listing process. But so many of you guys out there are such good agents. It's a great opportunity to get that lead and help them maximize sales price for their home. So again, go to leadpropeller.com and think about signing up for your own investor site, so buyers will start reaching out to you, asking you to make an offer on their home. Dude, that's fascinating. Give somebody something they want and they'll buy something that they need, or something they need that they don't want.
Yeah.
What a way. I was at a sales conference once. It was a digital marketing conference. And this guy's talking about, hey, we're gonna teach you guys how to do Facebook ads. And it's the same thing. You're going to come to my office for 2 days, and it's a $4,500 conference for these 2 days. And everybody's sitting there. And he's like, and you can do it in payments. You could do $400 a month for the payments still. And he go sign up in the back. Nobody does. And he says, and I have 12 rose gold iPads back there that have been preloaded with the course. So the first 12 that sign up get that iPad, and like 50 people ran back there. And even the person in the back of the line was going to go say, like, can I still get an iPad too? Like, I know you already gave away 12, but if you're willing to give him that deal, will you give me another iPad? And that's one of the first times I got to see firsthand that example. But doing it in door-to-door sales, it's like, hey, I've got a Nintendo. What do you guys want for it? So you start going into real estate right away. Now, right after you got licensed, you went to a mastermind training conference. Yep. That's totally abnormal. I didn't learn that until I had gone broke like 3 times, that I needed to find, like, I done really well and gone broke and gone really well. And after like my third go to zero after having $1 million was, then I joined a mastermind, like Go Abundance, where we met. And that was my first time of saying like, oh, maybe I can learn from others. How did you know to go to a mastermind or a training conference when you just started?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just, I'd say, I always had a kind of mindset early, like, especially in real estate. It's one of the things that attracted me to real estate is, look, there's 1 million people doing the same job, right? Like there's not a business that there's more people doing it than anything else, any other profession in the world, right? Or at least in the country. And it's like, well, there's at least a few, right, who are doing it well, right? So I don't need to be figure everything out and reinvent everything. I just got to find people who know what they're doing. So I've always just kind of had that mindset. Like, if I'm willing to go find somebody who knows what they're doing, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to, learn it myself. But going to that specific conference, it was literally like, somebody told me about it. I don't know where exactly I heard it. And it was like in Arizona, and it was, somebody said, hey, this is a really cool conference. You're going to learn a lot about marketing. And I was, 20 years old, and all right, why not? So it just worked out coincidentally that when I booked it, a week or 2 out, like I got my license that day before, flew out on a Friday and learned about the unique selling proposition, right? Having a marketing message, having something that's different, that makes you stand out. And it was like, came up with the Your Home Sold, and at the time it was 68 days guaranteed or I'll buy it. And it was a good message. Still doesn't do you any good unless you get that message out there, but learn the kind of fundamentals. And so, yeah, it was definitely some good luck to go out and do that right away and learn to kind of hit the pavement quickly.
Yeah. I love that as a strategy, like finding your message, your unique message, and even your stories about Craigslist. Even when we were selling new homes, we would go on there. It was amazing how much, like, Craigslist used to be almost like the original social media. Like, you would scroll through there just to see what people were posting, just to see what people were talking about. Like, now we scroll through Zillow before we're scrolling through Craigslist.
Exactly. One of the cool things you just made me think of. So I started doing Craigslist again. Craigslist, this is 2006, right? Early 2007. Like it's a new thing, and so I was, spamming the heck out of Craigslist, right? And fighting their different algorithms over the years they put to try to stop you from doing that. But I was just posting houses that weren't even my listings, right? I'm just posting them on there to get leads, and then I'm posting your home sold guaranteed or I'll buy it in the for sale home sections, and people are flagging them and having them reposted all the time. And I'm fighting it. But anyway, it's working, right? And it's free. It's just doing the work, right? It's time, right? But it doesn't cost anything. So how I really learned a lot, and how one of the big things that helped my real estate brokerage really take off is once I learned how to do this and sell homes for free on Craigslist, what I started doing, I was reaching out to some of the other top Keller Williams agents in the country at the time. And one of the cool things, I don't know if Keller Williams still does this, but at the time they had this Crystal Reports, I think it was called, where you could see how much money everybody else in the country made. So you could see who was really successful, right? Because what's the real estate agent like? How many homes did you sell last year? They take their best month, multiply by 2, and extract it over 12, right?
Right.
So in Keller Williams, you could see who was actually successful. So what I started doing is just saying, I found whoever in the market, who was the top guy, who was the guy selling more than anybody, right? And I started reaching out to him and just saying, hey, my name's Don Wenner. Nobody wanted to talk to me. I was 21 years old and been in real estate a year, right? I can show you how to sell 100 homes for free on Craigslist, right? People wanted to let me come talk to them, right? So I must have went and met with 20 people in 20 cities over 6 months. And I went there and I walked them through this play-by-play of how you do this, and showed their staff how to do it. But then I'd have 4 pages of questions for them, right? Well, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? How do you structure this? How do you compensate your agents? And they, and probably because like all of us, right? Once you have some other success, when you see somebody else who's hungry and motivated and really curious, you're willing to give them time. So built a lot of relationships that way, and that got me invited into other mastermind groups and stuff. But that going and offering to give something first instead of just reaching out, because I'm sure you get it. I get lots of people constantly hitting me up. Hey, can you tell me how you did this? And just wanting something, right? But I didn't want to go reach out to them. If I would send them 4 pages of question, I would have got no response back. But by saying, hey, I got something to give to you, that would get them to want me to come to them and talk with them, and then I'd pull knowledge from them as well. And I was really powerful in speeding up the learning curve.
That's like showing up with the Nintendo Wii, right? It's a similar thing. Like, hey, let me help you. But you targeted and you said, these are the people that I really want to get. These are the people I want to learn from. How can I seriously add value in their life? What's a niche that they might not know about yet? You reach out to add that value, and then you get to be next to them. And I think real estate is what's been fascinating for me the last, 5, 6, 7 years, finally getting into like a mastermind / mentor, like this whole idea that people are willing to help each other succeed because it's fun, because it adds value, because deep down, like I remember growing up just thinking, no, you got to keep your secrets to yourself. But what our podcast is so much about is like, come on and share your best secrets ever. When I released my book on how to buy foreclosures, right? It has every secret I ever had at auction in it. And I had so many people reach out to me afterward, and they were like, why did you do that? Why are you telling everyone? I don't get it. Like, are you giving up? Why would you tell everybody all of your secrets, all of your methods? Because trustee sales was such a secret industry. No one would teach anybody how to do it. But it is that mindset of like, people like seeing other people succeed. So this is a while back, and you've gone through a few life changes since then, but what advice would you give yourself as that first year agent?
So I think what I would tell myself to do, which we did do pretty fast, but I probably would advise myself to do even faster, is attract great people within my organization. So, and I think most real estate agents, when I was, young in my career and young in age as well, we started doing like lots of short sales as an example. And, in 2008, 2009, we were doing all these short sales. I remember how many conversations I'd have with old agents, and I don't say it in any respectful way, who would say, what is this, right? And well, it's contingent upon the bank approving it, right? No, my buyer's already pre-approved. What are you talking about? No, this is the seller's bank. The seller owes more than you can't do that. I would talk to attorneys and they would tell you can't do this, right? Because we were doing it before there was even a term for it. We were like, there's got to be a solution. And I'd have so many agents, and the thing that I still joke about now, that so many agents who'd been in this business forever would say to me is, you don't know what you're talking about. I've been doing this for 25 years, right? And I'd always think to myself, I was usually too polite to say this, but I think, no, you haven't. You've been doing this for 1 year times 25 times, right? You've done the same thing for 25 years. You got 1 year's experience done 25 times, right? And most real estate agents never get beyond being a single agent, doing the same thing, running around with home buyers, right? Year after year after year after year after year after year, right? So, when I started doing this type of marketing and started having some success, I realized very quickly that, hey, I need some help. And so I did what a lot of, I think, good agents at a Keller Williams do, is you grab an unsuccessful agent out of the office and you say, hey, come help me, right? And so I grabbed a young lady in my office and said, hey, I'll give you a part-time job. By the end of the first week, she was working 60 hours a week. 3 weeks later, I had 2 full-time assistants. 2 months later after that, I had 3. That took me about 5-6 months in the business to hire the first one. And then I had 3 quickly. And then about 3-4 months later, I hired 2 buyer's agents. And so by the end of the first year, I had 5 people. But looking back, as I've hired a lot of people, we have 450 full-time team members today. Every time I look back on my growth and say, I should have hired better talent faster, right? I shouldn't have hesitated. I shouldn't have waited. I should have done it even faster. And never, ever been a point where we've hired a great person. We say, man, we shouldn't have hired a great person. We weren't ready for it yet, right? It's always going to bring value.
Real Estate Rockstars, before this next commercial break, I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and thank you for listening to the commercials that we put in here. This is how we're able to push the podcast to you. This is how we can make sure that we publish so much content and keep providing value. So here we go from one of our sponsors, Rent Ready. All right, guys, we got to be honest here. You've heard so many of the Rent Ready ads over the past really 9 to 12 months, as they've been one of our flagship sponsors for so much of the stuff that we're doing. Rent Ready is a property management software, and we've told you about this, truly working to elevate the entire renting experience for landlords and tenants. But this time, this isn't just a boring old podcast ad. I'm not sure how many episodes we're going to run this on, but it's not just to help you maintain and screen tenants and run leases. This podcast ad is actually a secret. So this month, Rent Ready is releasing a game-changing feature that will help you save a whole lot of time and headache when it comes to crunching numbers on your rentals. I don't even know what it is yet. They wanted me to start doing this and said, so, well, I can't share it yet. Make sure that you stay tuned to the Rockstars podcast for that surprise reveal, because we'll have it on good authority that Rent Ready will be letting our listeners know that once top secret feature is ready. So in the meantime, if you're looking to get started on Rent Ready's powerhouse of a platform, I use it for a lot of my stuff. Get signed up, save 50% off on any Rent Ready plan using our special code Rockstar50. So that's 50% off any Rent Ready plan when you sign up using our code Rockstar50 at rentready.com. It's RENTREDI.com using the code Rockstar50 for 50% off any of them. And again, listeners, I got to say, thank you for listening to our sponsor ads. And if you have any interest at all in trying, any property management software, we appreciate it when you go check out our sponsors, especially the ones where I'm telling you about it myself.
I had a contractor a month or 2 ago tell me, I've been a contract, as he was yelling at me, so frustrated because he sent a quote for a remodel. And I was like, Dad, it's way out of the budget for what I was expecting. He told me, I've been a contractor for 25 years. And I love that idea that the reality is now the mindset hadn't changed in 25 years, and the world changes all the time. Like, half the jobs available right now weren't invented 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know if it's half, but a lot of the jobs today weren't invented. And there were jobs that were important in February of 2020 that don't exist now, and that they will continue to not. So that's great advice. You wish you would have scaled faster. It's impressive how quickly you scaled, but it also explains how you've been able to kind of accomplish so much.
Let me tell you a quick story on that. So one of the coolest things I think I did early in my career that I've told this to many people in masterminds and such, and very few people. I bet you when I tell you this, even though you know a million realtors and have been an expert in this space for a long time, I bet you this may be new concept to you. But I feel like I've told this so many people and so few have done it, but it was so powerful for our early success. And still to this day, we do this really across kind of all of our businesses, but we started in brokerage. So I, like many, once I started having a certain level of success and had more leads and more, people wanting to go look at houses, then I had time, right? That's the tough thing of working with buyers, right? It's time intensive, driving around, showing people houses. I started realizing that I had a huge percentage of the time, especially when I would act as a Pop-Tart agent, as we call it, right? Where you pop out and you just show a home. Somebody says, hey, I want to go see 123 Main Street. You say, sure, happy to show it to you. And you pop out and show them 123 Main Street, right? They don't like it. If they don't like the home, you just wasted time. You probably didn't pick up a buyer and spent 2 hours between driving, turning the lights on, all that fun stuff. Right. So anyway, I started realizing I have more people who want me to drive around and show them houses than I have time to do that. how do I increase the success rate that they're actually going to buy a home? And buy a home with me, right? Because there's nothing worse as a real estate. I remember back when that person does go buy a home and you follow up with them and they say, oh, great news, Don, I just bought a home. And they want you to be happy for them, right? But you didn't buy it with me and I took you around and showed you houses, 4 times, right?
Yeah.
So what we started doing, and I didn't have a system to this. I'd never heard of it before. I just said, there's got to be a better way. So I started having home buyers come to my office before we look at homes, right? So the agents have done that before. We called them CEDO appointments, come into the office appointments. So we'd say, hey, before we can go out and look at homes, come on into the office. That way we can make sure, we understand really what you're looking for. And a lot of the best deals, sell before they even hit the market. We want to make sure we're getting you access to all the right homes, right? So it's a little bit of a sales pitch to get them to come to your office, especially if your office is out of the way, right? But anyways, we get them to come into the office, which is harder. Takes a little bit more guts and confidence to do that versus just saying, sure, I'll hop out and show you a home whenever you want, right? But then the real magic, and we've developed this further today, but the real magic is, so probably like a lot of people, we would do, we'd go through a consumer notice and we would do a buyer agency agreement, right? And every state's a little different how this stuff works, but we do this buyer agency agreement. And typical buyer agency agreements say, hey, I'm going to be your realtor, and if you buy a home, you have to pay me, right? And so what we started doing is I'd go through the buyer agency agreement and show it and sign and say, all right, great. So now all we need to do to get started is I just need a check or a credit card for $495. And that fee will be applied to the purchase of your home. And you're only going to pay this fee one time. So would you prefer to do check or credit card? And people would say, oh, okay. What do you do? Do you have your checkbook on you, honey? We'll do a credit card, right? And I'd fill out the form, $495. So I started doing that 3 or 4 times a day. So I started having 3 or 4 people a day come in. I'd walk away with $2,000 without selling a home, right? If on 4 people. And then I'd send them out with one of the other agents that I brought on my team, and they go look at homes. And all of a sudden what started happening is we started going from around a 20 to 30% conversion rate of a person we showed a home to buying a home with us to over 90%, right? Because once they paid that $495 fee, when they go and look at a home and they get back in their car, the question anymore wasn't, do we want to buy a home? I don't know. We could really remodel our basement, and I don't know, changing schools. To now they get in the car and they say, all right, do we want to buy this home or should we look for more, right? They're buying a home. They've already committed. They're doing it, and they're doing it with you. So it's been incredibly powerful. Today, we call it the Elite Preferred Buyer Program. And it's actually $697 up front. It's $697 when you go under contract. And then the really cool thing then on top of that, it's a 5% buyer agency commission. Not 5% total, 5 to us. So it's made it much more profitable as well to show homes, but it gets people committed. That's the big deal. And they buy homes with us over 90% of the time.
How do you have so I think it's a great idea when they're coming in. It's like, hey, if you're serious, go ahead and pay this now. We'll credit it back, or they're making sure they're committed. So you're not showing houses to people that aren't committed. Because I know there was plenty of times we were, walking through open houses and looking around, years before we were ever going to buy because it was fun.
Yeah.
I had flipped hundreds of houses before I ever owned in one I lived. I was always renting houses because I didn't want to, every house I looked at was an asset. So I was always renting houses and then buying and selling other ones. So I would have been one of those like looky-loos that someone would have said, write the check. I'd be like, you know what? Don't show me the house. It's fine. I don't know if I'm ready yet. But how do you have the conversation to get a 5%, like, hey, and we're awesome. So we're so awesome. You're going to pay us here. And then we're going to get a bigger commission. Some's going to get paid by the seller. Some's going to get paid by you. How does that conversation happen?
You already started it there for me. So yeah, it was a little, hey, it's 5%. Again, you think about it, we all know this as real estate agents, what's normal. So the average client doesn't really know, right? People think especially they've done the seller side, well, commissions are 5 or 6%, right? So more often than not, it's not even a conversation. But it is a conversation. Say, look, yes, it's a 5% fee, but we negotiate on your behalf to get the seller to pay most, if not all of this fee, right? So let's say the agents, the listing agent's paying out 2.5% co-broke, right? We first attempt is you go and you put a higher commission into the contract, right? You put an addendum saying I want 5% or 4% or whatever, right? If they knock that and they don't agree to it, and sometimes, with good prepping with the agent, you can convince them to do that. And you'll get agents, right, who say, well, I'm not even getting that much. Why would you get that? You get all that stuff, right? And scripting to it. And then if I can't get it, usually what happens with a 6% seller's assist is the buyer can't use all that 6%. So you take some of it out of the seller assist. So it's paid on the buyer side, but it's out of their seller assist, so it doesn't come out of their pocket. And the really cool thing is we don't usually get 5% at the end of the day, but let's say they're offering 2.5%. We may get an extra 1%. And now we look like we're helping the client. We say, hey, good news here. So I got the seller to pay 3.5% out of our 5% commission. And I've talked to Don, or I've talked to our broker, and we've decided we're going to go ahead and waive the additional 1.5% you would normally have to pay, right? Wow. Now, not only did we earn more, but we just gave them more value than they paid for, and they're thankful and appreciative about it, right? So there's definitely nuance to it, right? Like an example, I believe for a lot of reasons this way should be, is I don't believe, even pre-COVID, don't have the seller and the buyer in the same closing room, right? Keep them separate. And you don't want your client sitting in there with the other agent. The other agent going to say, "I can't believe your agent charged you an extra 1%." That's avoid that stuff, right? So there's some process to it, but those are kind of the high levels, and it's been incredibly powerful. We average to this day in this incredibly hot market. We're in no different market, I promise, than you're in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. That's where we run our real estate brokerage. We average a 3.7% commission per side. So, market average is 2.4. We average 3.7, 50% more than market average. So we're not getting 5 every time on either side, but we're getting 50% more than the average agent is.
Yeah, and I bet a bunch of people are going to be reaching out to your team for advice on that. Right now, it's the time of the year and the season where people are having to battle to keep their commissions, where the argument is way more like, hey, can I get you to list this for less? And your answer would be no, but you can get us to list it for more. And here's why. Hey, Real Estate Rockstars listeners, this is a commercial break, but this is a quick commercial break for you guys. See, have any of you ever wanted to host your own podcast? If any of you guys thought about launching a podcast, but it seemed overwhelming, didn't quite know what to do, something that we're thinking about launching right now, or something that we're starting to launch right now, and I don't know how many people we're going to help with, is we want to find listeners like you that want to launch their own podcast, seemed a little bit overwhelming on what to do next. And we're going to start a service where we're going to help you guys figure out how to schedule your podcast, how to do the interviews. Our back-end team will do everything that we do for the Real Estate Rockstars podcast. We will edit the show for you. We will publish it. We will help you with your social media and your images to really grow it. So I think our plan right now is, 3 or 4 podcasts a month. For up to 3 or 4 podcasts a month, the cost will be between $500 and $1,000 a month to help you guys publish and launch your own podcast. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to reach out to us. Go find me on Instagram. Send me a message on there. It's at Aaron Amuchastegui. All right, back to the podcast. Just 2 more quick questions. I know we're just flying through here, and I know you got to get out of here pretty soon. So you've been scaling your team. What if you're going to give someone 1 or 2 tips on hiring? Like what are they? Whether it's, I have hired great people, I have hired bad people. I have spent so much time hiring at sometimes and given up. I've had other times where right away I go, wow, I'm so shocked that person, I thought they were going to be perfect and they're not. There's all sorts of things we can learn as you've grown this big team. What are just 1 or 2 tips you would give somebody about hiring?
So I'm gonna have to take this gonna take me a minute or 2 here, because this is a hot topic for me. So the number one place I've spent my time for the last 8 years has been on hiring. So I average 6 interviews a week. We hire as a company about 30 people a month. So I don't interview most today, but I do a lot of interviewing. So number 1 allocation of my time is on hiring. Number 2 is on leadership development. Hopefully soon those 2 are going to flip flop, but I spend a lot of time on hiring. It's a big deal. The whole concept, and I'm just going to give a little bit of a plug here. So I wrote a book recently called Building an Elite Organization, the blueprint to scaling a high growth, high profit business. And we detail our hiring process step by step in incredible detail in this book. It's something we've done a really, really great job of. But I'll hit on a few of the highlights. So first, really important place that most people fall short on is first figuring out what you're trying to hire for. And that sounds really simple. But we've developed a tool, we call it an RREK. That stands for role, responsibility, expectation, and key numbers. So before we ever hire somebody, we define the role, we define the responsibilities. What are the things the person's going to do? And the expectations, what are the results we expect from that person? What is this person going to be accountable for? Specifically, measurably, what are they going to be accountable for? What are the key numbers this person's going to own? And believe it or not, by figuring that out first, understanding what would success be in this person I'm going to hire, dramatically will change the hiring process, probably who you hire, and the success that person is going to have. So that's the first thing we start with. So that's step 1, figuring out who you want to hire. Step 2, and so that's the place most people fall down first. Let's say you do that well. Now, the next step you got to do is you got to create the job ad, Most people don't even do that. So people all the time I hear saying, oh, Don, I'm really struggling to find good people. And I say, great. What are you doing to hire people? Nothing, right? We're all doing a lot to find deals and find clients, but what are you doing to find people? Or do you have job ads posted? Well, no. What do you think? People are just knocking on your door because you're a nice guy. Like I hear all the time, oh, I'm in a small market. I grew first 8 years of our company. We grew our company in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I promise you, it's not the hotbed of talent, right? So we had to first determine who we're hiring, then create a job ad. Now, let's say you do those two things well. That sounds, got it done, right? Now you got to post the job ad, right? A lot of people don't even do that. All right, now you posted the job ad. You clearly identified it's art to writing good job ads. You can go to our website, dlpcapital.com, and click, careers, and you can see our job ads. They're very different than most. Then once we post the job ad, it's now when resumes start coming in, actually reviewing them and responding to them, right? Sounds small, but a lot of people don't do that. I talk to busy leaders and they're getting hundreds of resumes and they're not even having time to look at them, right? All right. So now you look at them, you put people into, we call it screening. Our screening process consists of, we have somebody interview themselves on a video. We use an app called Spark Hire where they do an interview of themselves. It's really cool. We've been doing it for probably 10 years now. We use a predictive index tool where we have them do a behavioral assessment and a cognitive assessment. And before we interview them, I kind of skip this detail. We figure out what is the behavior, what's the profile of who we're looking to hire for, and what's the cognitive, the processing speed they need to have. And based on the job, it's different. So then when people come across, we can see, hey, do they have the right behavioral match? Are they, are they personable? Are they a driving high A personality? Do they have the organizational and process attention to detail skills, based on the job? And do they have the processing speed? Can they move fast enough? And if you're in an entrepreneurial small company, one of the biggest tips I can give you is hire smart people. And in a proven, established company, you can have people with lower cognitive abilities do really well. Sometimes what you want. If you just want them to follow a step-by-step process every day, you actually don't want really smart people. But if you are changing things constantly, you don't have a lot of structure, you need people who can process lots of new stuff quickly and like it. So you need high cognitive ability. So now you have people come across, they do a video interview, you like them, you think they're a good fit, they match behavior wise, they have the processing speed. Then there's an art to how you interview. And one of the best books to that is a book called Top Grading. It's how you interview and make sure you're hiring people. We on average interview frontline people, 4 rounds of interviews, including panel interviews. They do case studies before we hire them. We put them in the field with us. We'll spend 40 to 50 hours with a candidate who gets through the process, as well as 10, 20, 30 hours with people we don't hire to decide who we're going to hire. So kind of the old saying, hire slow and fire fast, really take the time to evaluate the right people. If you can't spend 40 hours, you think that's way too much time to hire somebody, this is somebody you're expecting to spend 40, 50 hours a week with for the next 10 years, right? If you do your job well. So we put a lot of focus, a lot of attention to it, and it pays off.
I love that, man. Well, you started to answer my last question. I know that so you've got your book, so many of the guys that you got to share more of your story with. So, and you guys need to go research Don a little bit, because what we got to talk about today was his first business, right? But one of the keys that he was able to do was take this business as an agent and start hiring people to grow this brokerage. And what I've been telling everybody for the last 18 months is you got to have a backup plan. I don't want any of our listeners to just be agents. I mean, being an agent is busy. It's a full-time job. You guys are entrepreneurs, but you have to figure out how to leverage that to become an investor, or maybe become a business owner, or have these other things going for you and working. And Don has turned that from just a brokerage into so much more. So your book is about scaling. Your book is about how you started as an agent, and now you have all of these companies that are doing so many different things, and you're doing all these loans and investments. You just closed one of the biggest, what's this? There was a huge deal you guys just closed, right?
Yeah, we did. We just closed. The press went out yesterday on it, but we closed a few days ago. $585 million acquisition, 4,000 plus apartments across 6 states, 21 apartment communities. We did that with one of our partners, and that we help implement our lead execution system. We help put the systems in place from our book, and we help them scale, both in terms of helping grow the internal of their company, but then also providing them with debt and equity in order to capitalize these transactions.
So Don Wenner's story, how it's starting as a guy selling alarms to a guy selling houses to doing such a $500 million transaction, 4,000 apartment deals. So show your book one more time. So it's like building So building an elite organization, the blueprint to scaling. They're going to find that on Amazon. So now how should people reach out to you if they want to know more? Do you have like a landing page with any of this other stuff? Should they, what's the best way for people to learn more?
Absolutely. So on the book, itself, you can get it on Amazon, Audible, Libro, which is an Audible alternative. I actually recorded the Audible version, the audio version myself. And I know that's how I listen to books. I listen to a lot of books, hard time reading the hard copies. This is one that if you like it, you're going to want a hard copy because it's tactical details that you're going to want to be able to, be highlighting things and putting things into action. But to learn more about the book, including we do these big 3-day events similar to the GoBundance events, where we dig deep into helping people put these systems in place and scale their business. We help a lot of top real estate teams move into launching funds and building portfolios and so forth. We do these big events. So 2 places I'll send you to go to outside of Audible or Amazon. One, you can go to dlpelite.com, dlpelite.com. You can get a copy of the book there, the Elite Journal that goes along with it, a self-journal. Hal Elrod says the best one he's ever come across, and he uses it. He actually wrote the foreword to my book, a fellow GoBundance member, awesome guy, author of Miracle Morning. So dlpelite.com. And then you can go to our main company website to learn more about it, dlpcapital.com. And if you click /events or click the events button, you can see all of our upcoming events. We got a big one coming up November 11th to the 14th here in St. Augustine. We'll have hundreds of investors and high-level operators, probably 30, 40 GoBundance members will be there. We'll be focusing on scaling businesses. So dlpelite.com and dlpcapital.com.
God, and November is the best time to go hang out in St. Augustine. I forgot that Hal wrote your forward. I was talking to Hal right before we started our recording. So so it's always a small world. Don, thank you for coming on. We'll also add all those links and stuff in the show notes afterward, but it was a lot of fun getting to chat with you again today. And awesome. Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Real Estate Rockstars. This is Aaron Muchastegui jumping in again to thank you for listening to the show. Hopefully you guys loved listening to that one. And I want to make sure that you know about all of the extra resources that we have. And also, we need your help. They say podcasts are free. You get to listen to podcasts for free. But what is the cost of that podcast? I would say if I could beg you to pay anything for that podcast, I would say the cost of the podcast is going and giving a review. So whether you download it on Google or Apple or YouTube or anywhere else, please go give us a review. Say what you liked, what you didn't like. It helps us get better guests. The more reviews, the higher we get in the rankings. Right now, we are the biggest podcast out there for real estate agents, and we want to keep that spot because we know there's lots of podcasts out there. So go give us a review. Also, be sure to go to hibandigital.com. If you liked any of the resources that those real estate agents talked about, we've got a huge video vault of those resources for free. Every penny that comes on the podcast that we interview, they give us something that helps them get their deals or helps them work with their clients. And we put that in the toolbox in our vault for you. So go to hibandigital.com and you can get it. If you're looking for real estate education, go to rebusuniversity.com. We have all sorts of courses in there to help agents succeed in real estate, how to get the listing, how to negotiate deals, how to become an investor, all sorts of different stuff, rebusuniversity.com. And if you want to chat with me, go find me on Instagram. And if you come find me on Instagram, you can send me messages. Tell me what you want to hear. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. We try to put a bunch of content out there too. You can find me in 2 different places. It's at rerockstars.com for our Real Estate Rockstars page, or at aaronandmuchastegui.com for my personal Instagram page, where I can chat with you about all sorts of different things. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon.